And I remember thinking, that's so cool. I didn't realize that he did all of those voices.
Right.
And then I remember seeing the credits, and then I think someone told me, it was my mom or my cousin, and they said, that's Robin Williams, and he's doing like all these different voices.
Yeah.
And then I watched Mrs. Doubtfire, and I remember
Right.
in the beginning of the scene, it was him, and he was doing all these different voices, and I go, oh my gosh. One of my family friends, Shona, he got into acting. And I remember one day he pulled up in a limo, and I went, whoa, what is this?
Wait, what?
Yeah, he pulled up in a limo, and he was going to film this
My
movie
goodness.
in Calgary with
Yeah.
Angela Bassett. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. He gets to
crazy.
go, and someone picks him up, and he gets to fun. He gets paid
Yeah.
to act and to have fun and pretend he's drowning and like, oh.
Did you join like some like school plays or like school sort of endeavors that, like acting related, or did you?
Even at home when I was a little girl, I had my stuffed animals, and I had a little like a video camcorder,
Right.
and I would just film myself pretending I was like a talk show host.
What's up, guys? We are back with another episode of Breakthrough. In today's video and podcast, I have one of my dearest friends, Jessica Garcie. Again, guys, if it's your first time, make sure to subscribe. Check us out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So, Jessica, how you feeling? How was your? Is that your first podcast? Have you been on a podcast before, or?
You know what? This is my first podcast.
Is it?
I don't think I've ever done a podcast before.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think about. No. Yeah, this is my first one.
First one?
Yeah.
Ever?
It's exciting.
It's exciting. How does it feel to have like what you're saying being recorded and like broadcasted to the world? Is that weird or?
No, I don't think it's that weird.
Yeah.
I think it's so common.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of people are doing these podcasts, and sort of in our industry, it's almost like the work that we do gets spread. So it's like I'm not really uncomfortable with it. No.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that's good. Sometimes you never know, like when you I've had like guests and they're like, is it like, what should I say, or like, is this fine, like, is this cool, or is it too much? I'm like, honestly, just relax. Like, we live in a world where you can just edit things. It's not like your
Totally.
own live TV, or like it's not like, take the pressure off.
You could censor it. It's
You
like
can
if there's
censor
something
it.
you don't want to say, it's like beep,
Yes,
and
and
then
then the other time, like someone would have like, he said something and he cursed, like he used a curse word. I was like, man, honestly, don't worry about it. Like, we all curse. It's just, and again, we can just edit it out. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Let's start. So
yeah.
again, first question I want to ask you: why don't you walk us through, while your acting career, like when did you realize you actually wanted to be an actor? What were you doing before? Like, walk us through like the jobs that you picked up, and then to the moment where you realized you wanted to be an actor.
Ooh.
And yeah, walk us through that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a great question. So, starting off as a little girl, I just remember watching movies, Disney. One that sticks out, I remember Robin Williams was a huge inspiration for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he did Aladdin. And I remember thinking, that's so cool. I didn't realize that he did all of those voices.
Right.
And then I remember seeing the credits, and then I think someone told me, it was my mom or my cousin, and they said, that's Robin Williams, and he's doing like all these different voices.
Yeah.
And then I watched Mrs. Doubtfire, and I remember in the beginning of the scene, it was him, and he was doing all these different voices, and I go, oh my gosh. And so Robin Williams, he was a huge inspiration to me as a little girl, and I just remember loving doing voices and voiceovers and mimicking the voices that he was doing. And so throughout elementary school, I remember my mom put me into plays. I think I did Mary. It's like one of my first plays.
Wow.
It was like the Mary and the baby Jesus.
Mary?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I remember that we were singing in choir. And so I think because my mom, she was a singer and she would sing
Yeah.
for church and choir, I sort of grew up with her being a performer. And so seeing that kind of inspired me, and I wanted to sing and I wanted to dance, and I wanted to, I surrounded myself with other people who loved hip hop dancing and singing and all of those things. And getting into high school, one of my family friends, Shona, he got into acting. And I remember one day he pulled up in a limo, and I went, whoa, what is this?
Wait, what?
Yeah, he pulled up in a limo, and he was going to film this
My
movie
goodness.
in Calgary with
Yeah.
Angela Bassett. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is so cool. He gets to
crazy.
go, and someone picks him up, and he gets to fun. He gets paid
Yeah.
to act and to have fun and pretend he's drowning in like the water. I can't remember what that film's called. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
and then you can edit it in. But so Shona, he's a small business, well, not small business, big business owner now in Vancouver, and he stopped acting, but he has a great side hustle, and I'm so proud of him. And so seeing him,
Yeah.
he inspired me, and so I took a drama class in
So how
grade
long ago was that? Like how long are we
grade eight.
talking?
Yeah, so grade
Grade eight.
eight.
Okay.
Grade
Still young.
eight,
Yeah.
yeah, grade eight was when I was interested in doing some musical theater. At grade nine was when I actually enrolled in the drama class. I was sort of intrigued in grade eight, but wasn't quite confident enough. And so I would say grade nine was when I enrolled in the drama class. And my acting teacher, Mrs. Ruff, at the time,
Yeah.
she encouraged me. She was really pushing me to just, yeah, try out for the different parts. And then
I love that.
we did Bye Bye Birdie, and then we did You Can't Take It With You, and there was a few other plays that we worked on in class, and then
Yeah.
even just film and TV scripts and improv. And
Yeah.
I love that community. I love being around other actors and playing pretend and putting on an accent. And so I think that just
Wow.
really appealed to me at such a young age.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Did you join like some like school plays or like school sort of endeavors that like acting related, or did you?
yeah, so we did those musical plays, so Bye Bye Birdie, and then You Can't Take It With You, and then we created, even just for our biology project,
Yeah.
to do these sort of sketches
Oh.
with what we learned. And so I played Crocodile Dundee, and so I had this Australian accent.
Throwback.
Yeah, and I remember
Dundee.
I always incorporated some kind of filming or some kind of skits into,
Yeah.
you know, even at home when I was a little girl, I had my stuffed animals, and I had a little like a video cam recorder,
Right.
and I would just film myself pretending I was like a talk show host, and I'd have all these like stuffies that would
Do you
listen to
still
me.
have them today?
Oh,
Actually,
I
like,
think,
not for me, but for you, but take a look at them. Oh my God.
right? I know, and I
What am I now to like where I was?
and I tried to find some old video recordings of me and my sister, and we would do like remakes of like Harry Potter, and so I would be Harry Potter, and I would be in my desk, and she'd be filming me, and I'd be filming her, and we'd pretend she was Draco Malfoy, and it was fun
That
throughout
sounds like so much fun, actually.
my life. I always had that desire to
Yeah.
be in the arts, or be. I was always wanting attention. I think as a little kid, I grew up with a single mom, and I never really had enough attention growing up. So I think I found it through
That, yeah.
through the arts.
See, this is something I wish I had. I didn't have the luxury of like coming from a theater background. I just dove right into acting like when I got here.
Right.
But a lot of people really, a lot of actors actually, they come from a theater background, so they have like a bit of an easier time sinking into this.
Right.
But I mean, I remember like maybe it's not true. I remember like maybe it's been a long time. I think it was like back in Montreal. It was like a French high school. But I remember like either attending or like having a small little role in a school piece in a school play.
Yeah.
But it's been so long that I don't even remember if I was even in it.
You're like, I got a small role. I'm not sure if
I have
was
vague
I?
memories of like, wait, like, did I attend this or was I actually in it?
Right.
It's been so long. I was like, I was so young.
Aw.
And then like, how did that translate into you coming here? Like, how did you?
Yeah. So I'm born and raised in Vancouver. I've never lived anywhere else in my life.
Oh, sorry. Didn't you say, was that a Calgary? Like, is that what you said?
Oh, Calgary, my friend.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
Little
sorry.
Shona.
Okay, so you've always been here.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always been here
Okay,
in
okay.
Vancouver, and lived here my whole life. I moved from, throughout the Lower Mainland.
Yeah.
So Richmond, I lived in Richmond for a long time of my not adult,
Yeah.
for my
Yeah.
high school, elementary,
Yeah.
and then high school. And then I moved, I would say maybe around, I don't know, like 5, 6 years after graduating, I moved to East Van. And so I kind of, learned to live on my own without my parents, saved up some money,
remember that.
put myself through college. So I actually took a little break from acting. And I think it was important for me to see what else was out there, because all I knew was acting. And I went into a full-time film certificate kind of program. It was a diploma program with this school here downtown. It was called the Vancouver Acting School, or School Creative.
Okay.
It was called back then. And so
Nice.
now I think it's called the Vancouver Acting School.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I think they relocated. I think they're outside of Are they
Yeah.
still in downtown? I think like they're maybe outside of it a little bit.
A little bit outside of downtown.
Yeah.
And so I did my diploma program, and then after that, I went out and I started auditioning, and I didn't realize, it's a lot of rejection. I
Yeah, I mean
felt
that's you gotta embrace this. Yeah.
I felt like I wasn't really prepared
Yeah.
sometimes, and I don't think I had enough confidence at
Mhm.
such a young age,
Yeah.
especially with film and TV. I didn't really know what was I was doing. It was different than theater, and just the proper etiquette
It
and
really was.
ways to be like, wait, how do you actually audition, right? I didn't get
Yeah.
trained
Yeah.
to do that
Because I
so
guess like
much.
coming from a theater background, like you're used to like performing to an audience, and now
Hmm.
you have to scale it down to the camera,
Hmm.
and
Smaller
you're like, wait,
medium.
no, I'm not used to that. I'm used to going big.
Yeah, and I just wasn't even used to auditioning. Like going into an
Yeah, the
in-person
option.
audition
Right.
was weird because from high school to doing this full-time program, you only
Right.
learn so much, and we were doing theater
So
pieces.
you weren't auditioning back in like to the school plays, like you just got in.
Yeah, I just
Interesting.
got an agent, and
Okay.
then I just started auditioning for film and TV. So I didn't even get proper training of what it was to audition,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I
Interesting.
only knew a little bit from my acting teacher, but I didn't really understand the
Hmm.
nuance and how auditioning, and there's
Yeah.
the reader and there's the camera, and like you got
Yeah.
to look at the reader the whole time, and
Yeah.
you want to be off book. Some actors, they just look at their pages and they're not off book, but you want to be your best prepared. And so there's all these little things that you kind of learn along the way.
Hmm.
So I did take a little bit of a break from acting. This was early in my life, so I was about, 20 when maybe 19, 20 when I
So which year
graduated.
was that? Like how long ago
Oh,
was
that
that?
was a long time ago. I graduated that acting program in
Hmm.
2008, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it was 2008.
Yeah.
Then I took a little bit of a break. I went back to study. So I went to Langara,
Nice.
tried to figure out, taking some part-time courses. So I was actually auditioning again as I was going to SFU, and acting started picking up. I was booking more consistently. I was getting more commercials and really doing well in commercials. And then I realized, I think I just really want to focus now. Around 2017 was when I
Hmm.
said, I'm going to treat this as my career. If
Hmm.
I'm going to really commit to it, I got to give it my all. I got to be working hard. I got to do
100%.
the work.
Yeah.
So since 2017, that was when I decided. I finished a couple of my last few credits at SFU. Then I just went full force into acting, and then I just haven't
Nice.
looked back since. And I know I could finish my degree at SFU. I think I'm shy of like 7 credits, and I know I could do it, but
Yeah.
I just, yeah,
Yeah.
I feel
See,
like
this is a very interesting position that you're in because I was
Mhm.
okay. I'm not gonna go like full on into this because it's off topic, but I I studied computer science before I actually have like funny enough I have a engineering degree
Oh, cool.
before I actually got into acting. But before that, I did computer science, and I think I made so like, computer science is a 3 years program,
Oh, wow.
and I made it to like 2 years and a half. Okay, and then I think the last I like 2 years, 2 years and a half through the program, I noticed I didn't want to do this anymore,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait, should I like I have like what like maybe 12 credits left, maybe 3 classes.
Right?
Should I just do them, get that degree, or should I just like switch? And I never ended up like doing them because I just didn't like it. Like I was just too
Yeah.
much coding, it was just too much stuff that I didn't like. And sometimes I think about this. I'm like, should I just like? I feel like I'm so close.
So
Should I
close.
just
Should I
go
just
back
do
and it's
it?
like 3 classes, it's nothing. It's like a
Yeah.
semester, right? So, but would you ever consider like going back and finishing those credits
I
or?
think I would in terms of just having the degree. I'm like
Yeah,
that close.
yeah,
Just get the degree under your belt. Just because you never know in the future
yeah.
if I don't think I'm gonna do anything communication tech,
Hmm. Yeah.
related, but who knows, right?
I guess you can always like pick up like a side thing. I guess if you wanna.
Yeah, like a side hustle.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so to that, I'm
Hmm.
actually quite grateful with my side hustle as an actor. So I used to be in the service industry and bartending and serving, and I just had so many years of that, and my back would hurt, and like your feet wearing high heels and the late night hours. I remember hustling,
Yeah.
these late shifts and staying up counting the till till like 4 a.m. and
Yeah.
working those nightclubs. I'm like, this is just not the life for me. I need something
Yeah.
that's just a better side hustle.
It's
And
ground. Yeah, more grounded.
yeah, more grounded, and going from non-union to joining the union,
Yeah.
it's been a
Hmm.
bit of a transition for me, going from getting all the commercials and constantly getting auditions for the non-union commercials to now I think we only get as union members maybe one every 3, 4 months. So
Yeah.
going from 3 commercial auditions and voiceovers, like 3 a week versus one every 3, 4 months,
Yeah.
the chances of you getting a callback, the chances of you
True.
booking these jobs are just slimmer.
It's a concession you gotta make. Once you join
Yeah.
the union, you gotta pretty much say goodbye to the commercials.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
it's
But that
like
was my bread and butter,
yeah, yeah. So
right? And
again, like
so
yeah,
I kind of manifested
yeah,
these other side hustles in my life, which
mm,
has been teaching, which is kind of crazy because I never really thought of myself as being a teacher. And
yeah.
I teach
That's
for,
amazing. Are you teaching right now?
yeah, so I teach young actors ages 5 to 11.
Right on.
And so the acting school, it's online and
Okay.
it's called Young Actors HQ. HQ
Wow.
stands for headquarters.
Yeah.
And it's
That's so cool.
co-founded by Lauren Kemi Bradley and Jillian Walchuk.
I know Jillian. I think I've heard of her.
Yeah, and
I don't know her personally, but like I've seen her before.
yeah, and they're 2 actresses from Vancouver, and they started up this business, and now it's just booming. There's so many actors, especially out east, that want to take class, that that
Wow, that's
that use us
amazing.
for coachings,
Yeah.
and so I'm very blessed that I've had this opportunity to teach and
And it's
coach young
online,
actors
right?
online,
It's perfect.
but also
Yeah.
being able to coach and then teaching downtown as well. And so having like a couple of those acting side hustles.
Okay, let's talk about so I think like so I'm very interested to know like how do you from the moment you get an audition,
Mhm.
how do you break it down? Like what do you do? Like do you just pick it up, start memorizing lines? Like how much of it is like script work? How much of it is it like memorizing? What do you do with it? Like how do you build the character?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think for a lot of actors, they have their process, but I would say the number one rule is don't go straight into just memorizing because memorizing, it's not the thing that we're after. It's not about the actor who knows all their lines, they're going to book the role. It's the script analysis. I think even early on in my career, I didn't really fully understand how important script analysis is in acting. And it's just even a matter of get your script, read it, read every single detail, every single word on the page, because it's so easy for actors to just almost glance at it and they bypass all these really specific, important details about other characters in the scene, about your character, about where you're at in the scene, where are you coming from, what's your moment before, what's your moment after, like
Yep.
where are you emotionally. And so I would just say when you get that script, the number one things you want to do is look up who are the producers, who are the directors, who are the showrunners, who are all these people involved in this project. Learn as much
So
that.
I'm just gonna cut you off real quick because I hear this a lot where someone says, "Hey, like you should look them up, like the directors, the producers, the execs, showrunners."
Yeah.
So what exactly are you looking up? Like let's say like you look up a specific director. What exactly are you looking for? Like by googling him.
Yeah, so by Googling him, you can see the previous work that he's done, research who he's worked with before, what kinds of shows,
Right.
what types of shows
I see.
that they do. Because if you research the tones, if you research the shows, if you see like, oh, this is kind of what this director is all about, you never know. It could be similar. It could be a similar project to what they kind of gravitate towards.
Yeah.
And usually the showrunners and the writers and maybe the writers, you can kind of see the types of works that they've done. So I think that's why it's important because you can say, oh, is this based off of an actual novel? Is this based off of
Interesting. Yeah.
a previous sequel? Is it based off, what is it based off of?
Yeah.
So sometimes they won't tell you. It's like untitled or it's a secret project.
Yeah. If it's like a pilot or something, a new project. Yeah.
Yeah, but if they give you some details or they give you some of notes on the breakdown, definitely look at the breakdown. Look at the breakdown. Look at your character breakdown. Look at all of the other characters' breakdowns. Look at the synopsis. Look at the story, and then try to figure out the pieces. Like, okay, is this a TV series? Is this a feature film? Is this a web series? Because all of those things. Is this a short film? Like all of that kind of makes a difference in the sense of how you're going to be looking at the show. Because, for example, if it's a network procedural, the pacing is going to be faster, the dialogue is going to be clipped. It's going to be like, let's say, The Good Doctor, right? That's the type of show The Good Doctor is. It's like network procedural, the dialogue's clipped, they're articulate, they understand this this hospital jargon, right? So that's like another level of like
Yeah.
being really good as an actor to know these words. You got to research those words, you got to know what they're saying. So understanding, yeah, just like the tone of the show, the style of the show. I think all of those things are important. If you know that the show, you're in its second season, watch a few
A
episodes,
few episodes.
first or
get a
last
feel.
episode, to get a feel. You're gonna want to watch shows that film here, because
That's
why?
usually what I do.
Because why
Like whenever
wouldn't
I go on
you?
Netflix, I always like prioritize watching something that is like
That film's here.
that films here, because chances are, if I get like if I get seen for this, at least like I have a bit of a
An understanding.
Yeah.
Because if I get an audition, let's say, for example, if I get an audition for The Last of Us, I can know, oh, maybe they don't say what characters they're playing, but I can go, oh, I know these people. I know this group. I know the Fireflies. I know this. I know, you know what I mean? Like, you know the details, because now you're in that world.
Right.
And understanding that world, I think, is so important for actors, because they just skip all that and they think, I'm just going to act.
But not only that, I feel like it's
I'm just
also
going to memorize my lines.
it
Right?
kind of like it almost makes like your job even easier, because like I mean, sometimes I watch a show like and it's shooting here and I'm like, oh man, like, I would nail that role. If you would just give me an audition, I'll be that guy for you.
Yeah.
Because like you watch the show and you're so fan of that specific character or like that specific a thing, that you're like, oh my gosh, like I've been like, I'm like 6 seasons to like Stranger Things, and I'm like, I should have been this guy, like I know I can do this, right? So it almost feels like you have like a certain like attachment to the show.
Totally.
That like if a character or like a breakdown comes in, you're like, yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you mean. You want a villain for that season? Yes, like you know what I mean? So it's interesting.
Yeah.
So you spend time on the script, and then you
Yes.
feel like
So the script analysis, I will, some actors, they write down details or they write down notes. Some actors write out their lines. Some actors, for my process,
So like walk us through like what exactly do you do? Like obviously like some of the basics, like what's your goal and the tactics and the obstacles.
yeah.
So what are the most like the non-negotiables for you? Like what are the most important ones that absolutely need to be on the paper before you even start like memorizing?
Yeah. So the first thing I do is I really actually just want to understand what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
What is going on for this? What is going on in this scene? What is going on for the character? What is going on for the other people in the scene? Just really understand, okay, what is this scene about? Like, that's really what it is what is this about? And then get
Why
in.
is it there, right?
Yeah. Why is this written? What is the whole point of this scene?
Yeah.
And then I ask myself, what do I want?
Yeah.
What does my character want? What do the other people want from me?
Yeah.
Right? What am I going to do to get what I want?
Yeah.
And why is this important? Why is this important for me? Why is this important in the scene? Why is this important for the episode or for the story?
Yeah.
And then I get into looking at the words one by one, slowly read through it. I actually don't speed through it. I just like even say the words out loud, and I slowly read.
Each syllable to make sure that you.
I'm hearing it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm like interior, bedroom, night, da 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 da. I'm a very vocalized person. And then once I start reading it, once I actually understand everything, and I don't really write down too much about like what's happening, what's to say. I just kind of brainstorm it out loud. And then I start saying my lines, and I say my lines really slowly. And then I just try to get the concepts and the visuals in my mind of like, okay, what does this intention mean? And why am I saying this line specifically? And what does that line now lead to into the next line? So I like look at it as every thought, right? And when you look at it as every thought, then it starts coming together like puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever heard of streamlining, but there's a book and it's called Streamlining. And so there's a whole process. And so they kind of take you through this whole like process of memorization. And then I've also looked up other memorization techniques. And I noticed that what really helps is to move around when you're saying your lines out loud, move around your space. You never want to get too comfortable in one space.
I think Jill does that too. That's how we met.
Jill Morrison. Yeah.
Yes, Jill Morrison. She picks up the script and she memorizes the lines as she's walking.
Yeah, she says her lines out loud
Yeah.
with intention, with purpose. And
Yeah,
I think
love that.
that's so important. And to get it, so the number one thing I think for actors is to get the words in your body, but also being able to try it in different ways.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to get locked,
Yeah.
right, to the one performance. You want to be free. The whole point of acting is like you want to get to a point with the words. It's just so free and spontaneous. And if you know what's going on and you understand the story, you don't have to look at it or think of it as memorizing lines. It's like more of how is my character thinking?
Yeah.
What are the thoughts happening in my mind?
It's always easier like to memorize a line when you understand the story. It's just like that's usually what I do is like when I get the script,
like learning the
I would like
lines.
literally write a summary of the scene. I would like write it down.
That's great.
Yes, just to get like a story, like of like an actual natural framework of like what's actually happening. Because like then when I actually start to memorize the lines, I find it easier because I know like what's happening. I
Yes,
know
you have
exactly
to know what's
I know
happening.
the overall story.
Yeah.
So like I know exactly like what should be next.
Put it in your own words.
Yes.
So that's great.
I paraphrase the actual script and then I memorize it. It
That's
really
great.
helps because that's one way, especially if you have like pages and pages and pages of dialogue.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
So from there, how do you build the character? Like how do you know like how the character talks? If you need to throw in an accent, how do you know like how the character walks? How do you actually build the character and make sure that it's not actually you saying the line as Jessica or as Ali, but it's actually the character?
Right. So I think you're
This is
talking.
a very tricky one because a lot of people like they take the lines and they start memorizing them and they do them, but when they say the lines, they're like, oh no, that's me saying this. That's not actually the character. So how do you actually build a character?
So it's interesting that you say it like that because I almost look at a character as being one and the same. It's like you are part of the character. Like
Yeah.
Jess is always going to be I'm always going to bring the essence of Jess,
Interesting.
but I look at the character's point of view. Like I say me, I as the character,
Yeah.
right? And I look at the words because the words and the script and the dialogue will indicate how I speak and will indicate how I am around people. There's always hints and clues.
Yeah.
So we kind of have to be detectives in that way.
Yeah.
And so once we kind of suss it out, like
Yeah.
if I'm from New York,
Yeah.
and then it says like she grew up in New York, she's from, Manhattan, or she's from Brooklyn,
Yeah.
there's going to be a way of talking,
I
right?
agree. I think like a very good example of that is sometimes if you see like yo in the screen in the script, sorry, like you know that a specific type of character, like nobody like talks with like yo's, like hey yo what's up, like so like you would almost like know like hey yo, like it would be like maybe like a thug or something, or you know what I mean. So again, depending
Yeah,
on
is she a tough girl? Yeah, depending on the
depending on the
language.
language, it all kind of
Is it
dictates.
articulate?
Yeah.
Is she speaking like she's very intelligent?
Yeah.
Or is she kind of lower class? So through the words, that's where you can kind of develop the character and how you sort of perceive yourself as this character. Which I remember Jill Morrison. We'll bring her up again.
Yeah,
She
that's
she
how we
talks
met.
she
Jill,
talks.
yeah.
I know that's how we met Jill Morrison.
yeah.
She talks about
Credit to her, yeah.
her and her mentors, how they say mold the character to your shape. And I think that's always resonated with me in the sense of like we are this mold, and we mold it to who we are as well.
Yeah.
Bringing bits of us, pieces of us, but also pieces of how we see the character and how we see this character as us. And we kind of combine the two, and you sort of make magic simultaneously because you're never going to not play yourself. You know what I mean? I feel like you're
There's
always
always a
going to
bit of
have
yourself
you
in
in
the
there.
character,
Yeah. So I think in terms of like when you're saying, oh, what are ways that you build on character? It's through physicality. It could be through a lisp. It could be through how you walk, how you sit, how you talk, you know?
Interesting.
I think with Margot Robbie, she did that film I, Tonya, and she talks about how Larry Moss, I think she uses that animal exercise. There's like the animal exercise. Yeah, there's like an animal exercise. And she said that she, like in one of her interviews, I think she was it like a mix of a pit bull and then something else? So the way that she brought on I, Tonya was using the attributes of animals to help her. Like let's say for a dog, if the instinct is to be like extra sensory with like smell,
Right,
or like maybe a pit bull is a bit more
always be on guard or something.
on guard.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you use those instincts of a dog within the work of adding more layers and depth to the character, right? It's like little things that can
I saw
help
this. I've seen
layer.
this before, like animal work and people like throwing like animal sort of ideas and like.
And you're like taking on the physicality of that, and sometimes that helps with your character. Is she somebody who's blue collared, or is she somebody who's white collared, right? And like even Johnny Depp, like I think with just his senses, maybe he goes into the scene and he's like, oh, now something stinks really badly, or someone farted, or someone, and so then he would use some of those things within the scene, but no one else knows that. Only he knows that as the character, as the actor.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so it's like little tips and tricks that you learn from even from the greats.
Yeah.
Like really great actors.
There's always like stuff to be learned just by watching the great ones on TV and on film.
Yeah.
There's so much gold.
So much gold.
Yeah. So again, which leads me to my next question. So now, like, let's say like the scene that you're trying to look at. Let's say like you get like a very emotional scene.
Yes.
Like a very heavy scene where you're losing your mother, your breakup scene, or something very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you factor the emotion into the work? Like, how do you
prep that?
Yeah, what's your process? Because I've heard a lot of like people. I know Jill she said like breathing.
Yes, breathing is
really
great.
Some people use obviously substitution.
Yes.
There's so many techniques that help people get to that emotional state that they that is not requested, but that they need in order to play this truthfully.
Totally.
So
Authentically.
Yes.
Yeah, and I find that it varies, right, from actor to actor. For myself personally, I think, as a younger actor, I would use substitution to kind of prep for those roles. Using something from my life that hasn't been fully resolved.
Yeah.
Because, like Ivana Chubbuck, it's usually the best substitution is the ones that are unresolved, right?
Yeah.
And so if there's something that's been resolved in your life, or that substitution, then it no longer affects you as much.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a quick story about that.
Yeah.
I did a commercial for Daya Cheese. This was like years ago. And the role required me to just cry instantly.
Straight up.
Just cry.
Yeah.
So I had to go into my audition, and I've always been, so I think this is the thing that not a lot of people know about me, is I'm just very sensitive.
Yeah.
I can cry to like any Disney movie, my mom singing, and I'm
watch it over and
watching
over
my
and
mom singing, oh my God, you're amazing. And I just cry. Like I see a dog video on Instagram. Yeah, I see a dog video on Instagram getting adopted. And then it's like tears. They just pour. I see America's Next Got Talent. I see this person who comes from humble beginnings, and they're like, I came here from the Philippines, and I'm singing, and I cry when they get the golden buzzer.
Yeah.
So
it's a very good skill, honestly. It's just like
it's good, but it's also not so good if they don't want you to cry,
yes,
and you have to hold it in.
Yes.
That's not right.
Yeah.
And so or if your character needs to be tough and not be too sensitive, because you're trying to straighten this kid out. I can't be crying because I feel for him. I got to be tough, and he can't see the tears, right? Or if I'm a lawyer, I can't show tears if I see that this person has been victimized from this or some tragic incident. I can't cry for them. I got to stand for them, and I got to be strong for them, right?
100%, yeah.
So, okay, so substitution was something that I used.
It's harder for you to not to cry than to cry?
Yes,
Okay.
it's true. It's true.
I love it. It's amazing.
I know, and it's not. I don't know. It's not. I don't know if it's a good thing. But so for the Daya Cheese commercial, I go in for the audition, get the callback. I go in for the callback. I see all these other actors in the waiting room, and they're listening to music, and I'm going, oh, like so. I think some actors, they need to listen to music, or they need to watch some videos to kind of get in it, and I get that. I totally get it. Especially when you have nerves, and especially when there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
For me, I remember I went in there, and it's just with my imagination, I just imagined something. I don't know, anything. Maybe it's something like a dog video I was telling you about. If I just saw it on Instagram, or if I just saw it on a movie I watched last night, I just get emotional. So I would use that thing, like substitution, in a way, or just thinking of a very sad thing.
It's just like sometimes, like obviously, like certain directors, they want you to cry at a specific word in the script, and they're like, "Hey, can you shed a tear on the third word?" So how can you be so precise with the like? How can do you sort of like prep the substitution so by the time you get to that word, the tears are like? How do you because it sounds really really hard to do, right? So
when it gets technical,
when it's very very technical, where you need to actually cry at a specific moment in the scene. And also obviously if you have to think about your dog by the time you get to that word, and then you're like, oh,
you're two in your head.
How do you handle this?
So that's a good question because I think for myself personally, I've never worked with a director who has been like, you need to get at this precise moment and cry. So I've never had that. But there was a moment where with that Day of Cheese commercial, so I booked it. I was there and he was just like, okay, you're eating your chips and you're really upset that there's no cheese on the chips. And so what I had to do was I remember at one point I was like, okay, I just need to think about something sad. And he's like, just take your time. So the camera was rolling and then he didn't rush me. And I think that's the beauty of not feeling pressure. Like I have to cry right now. It was more like camera's rolling, do your thing. So I just allowed myself to breathe. I was breathing in this moment, imagining that I was, that this happened to whatever, and then see that the chip, and then that feeling, I use substitution to get there emotionally. But
it's very powerful. I use it too.
But what you're saying is specific to, like, let's say a scene. And in that moment, the director says, okay, we need to get you to this place. Now, can you get really emotional and start getting teary here? So what
sometimes like the scene starts and it's not that emotional, like you're coming from
it's true. It's not emotional.
And then you have to get there because like things
you have to get there.
In the scene, there's obstacles and whatever, and then something happens and then you get emotional.
Yeah.
So, right. So like how do you like substitute like on the way to that moment? Like how do you
I think the best work is to do the prep prior to being on set. So you can think about why is this so hard for you as this person to deal with this? And so in a scene that I filmed once, I can't name the show because it hasn't aired yet, but basically when the director was like, hey, go further with that emotion, and this is what you're telling me right now, and so I said, oh, you want me to go even further with it, so I can be like kind of like the victim, like in my mind I'm thinking, oh, but if I go further with it, maybe I'm coming across as like a victim, like I'm being too emotional, but sometimes some characters are the victims, so you can, and so I was just trying to honor, not doing what Jess does of like just getting so overly emotional. But he asked me to, and I think what helped me was just really being in the moment with my scene partner and understanding what were the stakes and what was actually going on that made me so upset as the character. So I think
you would always take a step back to the script.
I think it just reminds me of just like, hey, Jess, how much does this mean to you? Why do you need to tell this story? Or why is this important to you right now? And then just breathe in it and you just be connected. And then I allow the other actor to affect me. And so when he's affecting me and he's like, well, why did you do that? Let's say that was his line. Like, why would you do that? And it's like, well, I tried, and and you're in it. You're just trying to discover it in the moment. You don't want it to be pre-planned. You don't want to overthink it. But I would say still at the end of the day, I think it's important to have a strong substitution that you're fighting for. So even if I'm feeling like I'm not using substitution in the moment, I've done it in my prep. To what is that thing or the one thing I love the most that would be so hard if this actually happened in Jess's life? And if I do the what if or use my imagination, that gets me really emotional.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. Also, like I feel like you raised a really, really important point where also, like, if your partner, like, is actually, you don't always get this luxury, but, like, when you see, like, how much your partner is committed to the scene, and he's there with you, and you see him crying, and he's like, wow, like, it's just, like, I owe it to him. I owe it to this person to actually give as much, if not more.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
Look,
you're just as good as your scene partner, right?
Yes,
or, like,
if someone is giving you
someone's
all,
giving
and,
you.
like, you're like, like, you kind of owe it to both of you guys, right? To really give everything you have.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, like I'm acting with someone, I'm like, I'm seeing this person getting emotional, so that gets me emotional because it makes me feel.
Exactly,
You know
because
I mean?
you're in the moment and you're being affected.
Correct, yeah.
Right? And so if you allow yourself to be relaxed and to just listen and be affected by the other person, the work's done for you. All you got to do is show up now because you've done the prep, you've done the work. Now you got to let it all go. Right?
It's
let it all go.
This concept in Ivana's book where you do all these things, the goal.
Prep.
And then the last step, which is like,
let it all go.
Let it all go.
Yeah. You don't want to be in here.
If you've done the work, you should try. And honestly, like, even if it does not go well, it just shows that you're human.
Exactly.
Just, like,
we're not perfect.
We're not perfect. Like sometimes
they keep the slips.
And sometimes like I'm doing a scene and like I'm like, oh man, and prep was so much better. I feel like it wasn't like so good. And then they like, man, that was
great.
That was great.
I know. Some of the best work comes from when we think it's the worst.
Yes, and you're like, really?
And I go, and I've seen that before in my own work where I look back and I go, oh, I hated that take, or it just wasn't good enough. And then
Yes,
I
and you're
watch it
like,
and I go, why am I so hard on myself?
yes,
Why am I so hard on myself?
yeah.
Right?
And you're like, man, it was so much better in prep. Like, like I practiced this and I did the
Yeah.
emotional stuff and everything was there. But then when it came the day to shoot or like whatever it is,
Yeah.
you think that it's not as good, but the prep really carries you. Like, like it
Yeah.
just goes to show that like what you think is like maybe like not so good work could be like a masterpiece for someone else.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So
And maybe you're the most connected because you're not thinking about,
yeah.
Anything else or what's happening in the scene. You're just engaging and you messed up a line, but maybe you messed up the lines because you were just so invested and you were so connected. And that's the beauty of it too sometimes. And then the director might just go, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like what you did.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right. Great. Moving on. Cut. Right. And it's
Yeah.
not about perfection. And
I love that.
and I think that's the number one thing. A lot of actors, they have this pressure. It needs to be perfect. It needs to hit this. It has to hit this beat. It has to hit this transition. It has to hit that note. But then you become too technical about it. And then you're not even living and breathing anymore. You're just too in your head and it becomes too logical and step by step.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I love that.
There's no spontaneity.
No, there isn't. Yeah. So I want to get to this question now. This is a question. It's actually the ultimate question of the podcast. It's a question that we see a lot. I noticed on other acting podcasts or on YouTube. How do you differentiate real acting from fake acting? Like, how do you know that? Like, okay, that's real there. How do you differentiate both from one? Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you differentiate between when I see someone who's really connected and really listening, authentic versus somebody who's just not a good actor? Is that what you mean? Or just,
Yeah,
or
I mean,
just
like
fake?
when you look at something, like like real, when something looks real to you, or when something looks like, yeah, okay, like he just basically like he barely put like sometimes you can just tell, right? Like if there was a lot of work that was put into the performance, or sometimes you're like, I feel like he's pushing, or I feel like, you know what I mean? So like, how do you?
I think the best work that you see is the work that looks so effortless.
Yeah.
Right?
More.
It almost feels like you're just a fly on the wall and you're sort of taken into this universe or into this world with these people, and you're just kind of experiencing something with them, or just, I think it's almost just how relatable these actors are in their storytelling, and just the truth and the honesty of how we are as human beings. I think that's what I look at when I see, holy shit, like that's really good acting, is when it's just, you don't even have to think about it. You're like along in this journey with them.
Glued to the screen. And
Yeah.
can't take your eyes off of them.
Yeah. And I think most people can tell when it's not good acting, or when it feels forced. You could feel it's pushed, or it's either if they're not really listening or reacting honestly to what the other character is giving them. It's like a reaction.
Yeah.
And if you see that they're pushing this emotion, pushing this sadness, and pushing, it reads on the screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You can't hide it. Like,
You can't hide it. You can see it. And the best acting is just so effortless.
Yeah.
And you could just see that they're just so connected, and just, I think a lot of it is just really listening and just paying attention, right? To how the other person is affecting you.
Yeah. Have you ever like
that's really
caught
it.
yourself like maybe pushing through like a scene at some point, or you caught
I'm
yourself?
sure I have. I'm sure I've pushed. I'm sure I've done all of the things that most actors do, and then maybe a director will
Part of,
just
like,
say,
getting better, right?
yeah, maybe a director would just say, hey, Jess, like just take it back a little, or a director might say this, I feel like right now you're in your head, or I feel like just try it again, and let's just reset, take a breath. And usually if I'm in my head, or if I'm feeling stressed or pressured or anything like that, I'll usually just ask the director, hey, can I just take a moment? Just take a moment, have a glass of water,
Yes.
breathe, take a breath,
Well,
and then get back to what's going on.
Yeah.
What do I want? And then that gets you, think that helps you get back
Yeah.
into connecting again.
I guess, yeah, you're right. I guess a lot of people who are pushing or like doing somewhat of a non-genuine performance is because maybe they haven't done the script work, or
Yeah, maybe they just haven't done enough prep work, or they're
It goes right into
rushed.
memorization or something, right?
Yeah,
So,
or sometimes some of these leads, they don't have enough time, and then they get a new script the day before,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
you just have to just like with those actors who I've
yeah,
seen have so much dialogue, and like the night before,
yeah.
sometimes they don't get enough time to prep,
Yes.
right?
See, like this
Because
is something like I've always
you
like
just got to
wondered.
get good at that.
Yes, it's
Make
like
it
a
look like
skill.
effortless.
Yes, it's a skill you're gonna master because I feel like
It
if you're
is.
like a lead on a show where you get like a
14-day turnaround.
like you know what I mean. So
Hmm.
like and you have like like you're shooting 5 to 6 scenes like every day
Hmm.
where you have
Hmm.
to you don't necessarily
New
have time.
scripts getting rewritten.
Yes, and right. So like you got to be able
Yep.
to adjust on the fly almost, right? So
You do.
yeah,
And so I find that with those actors, what keeps them calm and what keeps them focused is just taking each piece at a time, right? Like sometimes I'll run lines with the leads. If they're like, "Oh, can you just run lines with me?" And I'll just run the lines with the lead.
yeah,
And then they just kind of go through it, and
yeah,
then they just feel so much more confident because they just had somebody just run it with them a few times, right? Because
yeah.
sometimes you won't get all that prep time.
That's true.
But as long as you know your character and your part,
Yeah,
you're going to be prepped enough if
yeah,
you know who you really are throughout this whole film. If you read the full script, then whatever comes thrown at you with new writing, new scripts thrown at you, you will know how to navigate that as your character.
yeah,
It's just a new scene with maybe some new characters, but you'll know, because if you've done all the prep prior, it's just a matter of looking at, okay, how would my character kind of perceive this, or with this interaction, what would this be like,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Love that. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have any fun stories that you've experienced on set? A moment where it was like, I was like, oh, that was funny, that was embarrassing, but that was cool, unique. Maybe that's
Some funny
some
moments.
funny moments on set. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Let's hear it.
I'm just trying to think of something that was really funny. Ooh,
It
that's
doesn't necessarily to be funny. It could be like something unique or genuine or um.
like a great
Yeah,
moment.
great moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to think. So one of my first ever credits.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, actually, I'll go even before that. So one of my first ever paid jobs was for a show called The Untold Stories of the ER. Have you heard of that? It was on TLC. It's
I got
like,
your IMDb right here, actually. So
yeah, yeah, The Untold Stories of the ER.
right here, the first one.
Yes, that was one of my very
2014.
first credits. And oh man,
Let's see. Yes, let's hear it.
let me tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
So I get this booking for this nurse role,
Yep.
and she has quite a few scenes, and then I get brought back for another episode. And so this is like my first paid job. I thought it was so exciting.
It's the first one
So
ever, right?
first one,
Everything
right?
before that, it was just like.
It was just like short films,
Yes.
but this is like I got properly paid.
Yes.
And the girl in the scene for this first one, I remember she was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to cry, so like let's like make sure that we don't have to do this too many times." So, like, there's already pressure
Oh my goodness.
for me, and I had like
First time
quite a
ever, she comes and tells me like, "Hey, I have to cry." Like,
yeah,
I'm
like
just
so we can't have too
"Can
many
we nail it?"
yeah, can we nail it? And so puts pressure on me too,
It
right?
does, yeah.
But the funny story is, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
I was so ridiculous. I don't know what came of me. The day before the day I go to set, I go, I'm gonna bike. I'm gonna bike to Riverview Hospital. You know, in Coquitlam, there's that hospital there. It's like it was an old ward,
Okay.
like for like mentally unwell people.
Yeah.
And basically, I took my bike on the bus. I actually biked all the way to, I don't know, downtown or something. Then I took the bus,
Yeah.
and the bus, I put my bike on the bike rack on the
Yes,
bus
yes.
until it took me to
Yep.
that location,
Yep.
that hospital, the mental health hospital. But now it's used for like film sets and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
because they closed it off. And so I'm biking, and then as I go to set, I got hit by a car opening their door, like their car door, and
you're
my
biking?
as I'm biking,
Oh my God.
and I had enough impact that the bike went through the driver's door, and I flipped over.
Are you kidding?
No, and I had no helmet, like an idiot, and I flipped with my backpack. My backpack saved me because I actually landed a little bit on my head, but my backpack saved me. So I fell on my back,
Holy
almost hit
smokes.
my head, And then the guy stopped and said, "Hey, are you okay? Like, can I help you?" And I'm like, "No, I gotta go to set." Hop back on my bike and just kept going.
No way.
And I swear I got some kind of brain. I don't know. I think
Concussion or
I
something,
did.
right?
I had a mild concussion
Yeah.
because my first day on set,
Yeah.
I told the director. I said, "Hey, just letting you know, like, I got hit by it." Like, but I don't think he would believe me, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
my first day,
He's
on
probably thinking like
set.
you're chickening out or
I'm
something, right?
chickening out. And I said, "Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
I'm here on set. I didn't want to miss it, but I
Yeah.
got hit by I didn't get hit by a car, but the car door swung open and I flipped
Yeah.
and I hit myself and I just kept going." And he was like, "Oh, it's okay. You'll be fine." And so as we start the scene, oh my gosh,
You're in
I
pain.
didn't know my lines because I
Oh.
think my brain was like all like foggy and I just felt really not
Yeah.
like good.
Oh my goodness.
And so I remember having to like look at my lines before I said my lines and I was feeling all the nerves and I feel like my brain was just like really like not doing well.
Yeah.
And so I pulled the director aside and I said,
Well, that's the pressure of the other lead actor telling you like, hey, like,
yeah. And then she said that comment.
let's like not like like.
And then the nerves and the pressure was on.
Yeah.
And so I remember going up to him saying, "Hey, I apologize. I got hit when the car door opened and I'm feeling a little bit like a little disoriented and I'm not sure if and I don't know what's going on." And he's like, "It's okay. Like, just do your best." So then we do a couple takes. And then I remember just like some of the lines weren't coming. And I would say some of the lines, then some of them weren't coming. And I don't know if it was just me nervous and also just
Yeah.
what had happened. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
So then,
Because you didn't really have time to process what happened.
yeah.
You literally just got back up and you drove to set.
Yeah. And then so I'm doing this scene and then like I think I improvised a little bit and then we
Yeah.
then we just kept filming and we kept going and then I was like, "Okay, I think I'm getting a little better."
Yeah.
Then we film like another scene and it's at the desk and then I don't know, again, it was happening and I remember just getting really nervous and also feeling foggy and I remember I was like looking at my lines at the table,
Yeah.
making sure I knew my lines and then when the doctor came I would like say my lines. But that was like the first moment where I experienced, oh my gosh, like this is a real set and like these are professional actors
Yeah.
and I really want to do my best.
Yes.
And I think the
Yeah.
nerves got to me, that instant got to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say that that was a pretty funny story for like it being my first credit and then
Yeah.
me like
Yeah.
bailing on a bike.
That's crazy. That's honestly like one of the craziest
Then I
stories.
toughed it out.
That stories I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I toughed it
I'm
out.
even surprised that you even like, because like a lot of people would be like, hey, like I need like safety first. I need to make sure I mean, because like
Go to the
sometimes,
hospital or something.
yeah, because like sometimes you something like this happened to you and you're feeling fine, but you don't know like if you have like internal injury
Mm-hmm.
or something, right? So
Thank goodness I was okay.
yeah, but it's I mean I commend you for even like just driving to set. And,
I didn't want to miss this opportunity. Yeah. I was like, I need to do this job. It's like my first acting job.
Yeah,
So I didn't want to miss it.
yeah, and like again, like I totally get it because it's your first professional acting job, so you're probably like to the moon, right? Like you're probably just
Yeah.
excited and wanted
I just wanted to be
put
there.
this on like your resume. Like yes, I
Yeah.
got it. My first actual credit.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then they brought me back for another episode. So I was like
They must
super
have liked
grateful. Yeah. So I was like, they must have liked me. I was like, even if I kind of messed up that bit,
Yeah.
but like, thankfully, like they were okay with some of the improv. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
Like, so
yeah.
I was
I love it.
I was very grateful that,
That's amazing.
they
Was that
were
a show
still-
that like that was airing at the time? Like that?
Yes, that was so in Vancouver. I would say that was one of the shows that I think almost every actor got on. The Untold Stories of the ER. I think
Yeah.
every local actor
Classic
probably
one.
booked it. Yeah. Yeah. But you auditioned for it like a proper, like there was a casting director and then you had a proper audition for it.
Nice. Nice.
So that was one of my funny first
Amazing.
first credits.
I love that. I mean, I'm seeing it too. I'm looking at your IMDb right now. It's pretty full. I mean, like you've got a lot of credits, which is
Aw,
amazing. I mean,
thank you.
so the second one was Lucifer,
Yes.
and then
I
Altered
died
Carbon.
poison. I remember I was
You
getting
died
poisoned
Oh, wow.
by Lucifer's
Young
friend.
woman poisoned. That's what
Yes.
it says.
Yep.
So that was a death scene.
Yes. And I died. And then they put me in the gurney
Yeah.
and they zipped me up in a body bag. And yeah,
Were you already?
I was
dead?
laying down.
So were you already dead like when they filmed it, or like you had to like die on
I
camera?
had to die on camera.
Wow,
I had to like
that's so cool.
choke and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
flop on the ground. There was
Gotcha.
like a stunt guy who told me how to flop and fall back.
Okay.
And
They
so
didn't even use the guy. Like it was just all you.
no, it was all me.
Yeah.
And so thankfully I knew, okay, I'm going to fall back and practice it a couple times
Yeah.
in high heels.
In
And
high
then, yeah. And then my friend Ala, who I know, she's also with Trisco.
Yeah. Yeah.
She said, "Oh yeah, Jess, okay." Like, and I've known her ever since, and she's such a lovely person. And
Yeah.
that was one of my proper. I would say that was my proper like union booking. I think The Untold Stories of the ER was non-union at the time.
Yeah.
But this Lucifer was like my first union booking.
First union.
Yeah.
Nice, amazing.
Which is
I love
great.
that.
Actually, that's a lie. My first union booking ever was a voiceover dub
Yeah.
for Animal Mechanicals. And that was my first acting job, period. Like,
Yeah.
first acting job was actually a voiceover. And I was like, wow, this pays really good.
I mean, voice work, like it's pretty good money. I mean, like they don't have
Yeah.
as much here, as in like in other places. But like once you get them, they're actually
They're pretty,
Yeah.
they're pretty, you can
I
make
think
good
I
money.
mean, I've done like voiceover is like an area I want to tackle at some point in my life. I've never really done voiceovers, but are they as lucrative as commercials?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some voiceovers can pay really, really good money. I know some actors have made like 40 grand, 30 grand off of like one job. So you can make really good money.
One job?
Yep.
That's amazing.
From one job, depending on
Wow.
the client, right?
That's amazing.
If you get on a lead, or if you get on like a reoccurring for like a big anime, like Polly Pocket or
Right,
a
right.
Strawberry Shortcake or
Yeah.
Barbie, any of those, if you could book a pretty good role, you're making bank.
Yeah.
They're buying homes, like apartments in Yaletown.
Didn't know that like it paid that well. I mean,
Oh, it pays really good. It pays sometimes better than like acting jobs.
really?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I see a lot of people like getting like I never really understood as to why so many actors get into like voice as much as like because I every single actor that I know like they're always like involved into some sort of voice work. And I was like, okay, I mean like voice is nice, obviously, but I feel like where you really want to be is probably on TV. That's probably where your heart and soul really lies. Again, I can't speak for everyone, but I can only assume. But I guess that could be one of the reasons as to why like I mean the voice work again like it's just there's so many cool things you can do with voice, right? Like
Yeah.
so many like animations and cartoon.
Yeah, narration. You can do
Yeah.
audiobooks. You could do podcasts. You could do so many things with voiceover, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
true
We're
because
doing one right now, as a matter of fact.
yeah, it's true. Commercials, web series. You could do so many different. It's almost it's basically acting. It's just that you don't see your face, and you can wear pajamas, and you could be relaxed in the studio booth. So if you're getting paid as much as a regular it is acting. So it's not like
Yeah.
it's just a different medium.
Yes.
It's
You gotta
not it's
act, like, you still
acting.
gotta-
Yeah, acting, but without the camera filming you.
Yeah.
Right.
You still gotta like like
You get to put in all that emotion, and you
Yes,
could go
totally.
you could go big, you could go crazy, you could just put in all your physicality and your breath and everything into it, right? And so it's just another great way of making money,
yeah.
right? As an actor, if you
good.
want to be like tapping into all sources,
Yeah.
it's like there's film and TV, there's commercials, and then there's voiceover,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, totally. I feel like the reason why I haven't really gotten into voiceover is just because like I feel like I have so many things I'm doing already.
Yeah, that's fair.
And yeah, I mean like look, I love acting as well. It's one of the things I love, but it's not the only thing.
That's true.
There's other things I love doing, but I didn't know that I was missing out. Like, see, I'm gonna look at it
You're
right
like,
now.
what? They're like, how much did they pay you?
30, 40.
What? You're like, damn. It's true. I've seen it. And
Wow,
I've seen
yeah.
some commercials being like, oh, we're paying 10 grand, like union scale, like, like
Yeah,
they, the buyout for this, buyout for that. So they can
You
pay
get to
really
go,
good.
Like a year, you're set. Like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Right? Even if you get one of those really good,
Yeah.
like animation bookings, you're set.
Yeah.
You can put mortgage down
Yeah. That's amazing. I love
with all the studio time.
It's so good. It's so good. Do you have any genres of like shows or movies that you really like to be on, or do you have like any preference for like are you more like a comedy person, like a drama person? Like, where do you like to usually audition and see yourself?
Yeah, audition for? Ooh, yeah, that's a great question. I love dark thriller, detective type, true crime. I love,
Sherlock Holmes, Jessica.
right? I could be the detective, like what's happening next. I love just that post-apocalyptic, something like The Last of Us. A show like that would be so great to be on, just because it's like it's raw, it's gritty.
Yeah.
You have to go through the trenches. You have to,
Yeah.
you're constantly trying to survive.
Yeah.
Any kind of like survival type
Survival shows.
horror, anything like that. I love that.
Yeah.
Sci-fi. That's really
I feel
cool.
like a show I would have loved to be on because I was actually a big fan of the show. I was like watching it before
Or like Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead. That was a really good one, but The 100.
Yeah, the 100.
I love that show.
Yeah.
It was such a good show. I was like
And
watching
it was filmed here.
It was filmed. I didn't know. Like I knew when I moved here.
And Van Helsing kind of has that sort of, but with vampires, right?
Vampire stuff, right?
Yeah, Van Helsing also has that kind of style where
Yeah.
it feels very gritty and rough and
Yeah.
anything like that. I think even C, you know, the Apple TV series C.
With Penn Bagley? No, that's you. Sorry. What's C?
Oh, I do like you. See you. That would be a great show to be
Yes,
on.
yes.
That's a show that I would really
That's
love to be on.
the psychotic guy, the crazy guy
Yes,
who just
yes.
kills people.
But also,
Yeah.
weirdly, I do like Emily in Paris.
I love it. You know what?
I
I'm
I
dying
could
to be on
I
Emily
would
Paris.
love to
'Cause I
be.
speak French.
Yeah, because
I'm
I would
telling
love
you.
to just be someone like her experiencing
Yes.
being in France and
Yeah.
just like filming in France. Like
Yes.
that is like the sickest kind of role you could get is
Yes.
being somewhere that you know that you
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
I loved Paris.
Yes.
I
'Cause
love
you have to move
the
to Paris for this, right?
culture,
Yeah.
right? And you get to move there for
Yeah.
like however many months.
Sign me up. Like,
Right? And it's just such a sweet like I love it. It's
Mm-hmm.
such a great show. I haven't gotten to because they're in season 3 now.
okay. Is
Right?
it the last season? I know they're wrapping it up.
I haven't watched it yet, so I'm gonna don't tell me any spoilers.
I mean, look,
I've seen the first 2 seasons,
same. Okay.
but not this recent one.
Same. I think I'm like on season 3, but I'm pretty sure like they're like on season 4 or 5 now.
Probably, so I need to watch. That's my next show that I want to actually start watching because
Yeah.
I was on. I subscribed to Amazon Prime for a while,
Yeah.
and
I
I
guess
like
they bug
crave.
you on emails until you do, eh?
Yeah.
They keep
And then
bugging you.
Netflix, I took a little bit of a break from Netflix and now I'm back on Netflix. So the first documentary I watched is the Martha Stewart one. And it was actually really good. It was really good.
Yeah.
But I won't give any spoilers.
Yeah.
And then this next one, my friend recommended. It's another documentary, and I think it's about like buy now or buy something. It's all about consumerism and like some conspiracy about it
Yep.
as well. But it's crazy. I just started watching the first 10, 15 minutes of it and just thinking about how much we consume as a society.
Yeah. We are. I mean,
It's
the thing is,
and all
like,
the visuals of the landfills
it's-
and
yeah, I feel like it's the
makes
North
me
American
sad.
way of life. Like we are a consumer society. Like again,
we keep buying, but they encourage it.
yes, I
They
mean,
encourage us to keep buying.
yeah. If you look at like countries countries in Africa or like in the Middle East, where they literally have to work for every single thing that they eat.
Yeah.
They actually know the value of food and the value of money. But obviously here, because we have so much resources, it's just like sometimes people don't understand. Like, hey, like it's not everybody has the same luxury. Yeah, it is a consumer society. I agree, and we take it for granted. Unfortunately, a lot of people do, and they don't know what it feels like to go hungry and not being able to work or earn money or so
Yeah, it's hard to make some money, especially when you
yeah
are in a country where
Yeah.
you're rich of all of these metals and
true.
but I know
Yeah.
I know that there's plenty of underdeveloped countries that basically they get punished for all of what we consume, all of the North Americans and Europeans and all the stuff that we consume, we like pile it,
Dump a lot out, yeah.
dump it all in the oceans, and the people who are affected the most are the one who are poorer countries
Yeah.
and the ones that are trying to make a dime and trying to hustle.
Yeah. Because again, like they don't have these like filtration systems. Like some people just drink straight from the lakes and the oceans.
And the plastics that are in the oceans and all of the toxic metals and everything that's killing the life forms that are under in the ocean, right?
It's very sad. I watch a lot of David Attenborough documentaries on that. All
Yeah.
this touches me.
And
It amazes me.
it
like,
just
these-
depresses me. That's why I have to be careful with watching these films because yes, there's the awareness and it's just the reminder of like watch how much plastic, right? Like plastics we consume. Watch how many plastic bags and what we purchase and the clothing that the textiles like are you thrifting? Are you recycling clothing or are you just buying because you want to keep buying a new top because you for this Christmas party or can you just look at the stuff you have and maybe reuse those outfits
Yeah.
instead of just kind of thinking that you need to buy. It's like, what do you have
Yeah.
and what do you really need? Like need versus want,
Yeah.
right?
I love that. It's great. Really look at it. Need versus want. It's
Yeah.
always a good
Like what do
question.
you really need versus what are the things that you want that you can, make some
Yeah,
sacrifices.
like, how badly do I actually want this? Yeah.
Totally. Like, do I just want this or do I actually need it, Jess? Marie Kondo, right?
Yeah.
Where she says, does this spark joy?
Yeah.
right? And you look at it, and I ask myself, does this spark joy?
Yeah.
No, then you get
Yeah.
get rid of it or keep it
I love that.
or donate it to a
Yeah.
charity.
Donating.
Someone else who will use your products. If you have
Yeah.
a good couch and then you want to
True.
give it to
Sometimes I
someone.
just like offer to people to come pick up my stuff on the Facebook Marketplace for free
Totally.
because I don't want to throw them.
Yeah, I don't want to throw it away. It's like if someone can use this couch for like a cheap
Helping someone.
price or just for free, it saves me time to have to go and deliver it,
No, 100%. So you've obviously been in the game for a little while. You've got your first credit in 2014. How do you find that the industry has changed since you started acting and started performing? I mean, obviously COVID came in, so obviously like we went from no self tapes, sorry, from like auditioning in the room to self tapes. Um, do, do you feel like there's been like a drastic change in the way that um, the industry has developed, or in the way we audition, or the way we land roles?
Yeah, it's definitely it's a huge difference in terms of when back in the day,
Mhm.
I say back in the day, I'm
Yeah.
not even that old. We were going in person for auditions, right?
Yeah.
You were there during that time
I
too,
was,
right?
yeah. I auditioned
Yeah.
in person a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, so auditioning in person is a whole different beast than auditioning for the self-tape
Yeah.
because now you're your own director, producer, editor, all of that.
Yeah.
Reader, you're having to bug your friends, you're having to pay for someone to read for you, right?
Yeah.
For all of your auditions.
So
Whereas
true.
when we were doing in person, you would go in, leave it, right? You did the work, you did whatever you could and leave it. Now you forget it.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can kind of ruminate a little bit more on your audition, or
There's pros and cons to both. Yeah.
there's pros and cons, right? I do like the autonomy of actors having a deadline and being like, okay, you have your full-time job or you have your other side hustle to provide that as an actor, because a lot of actors were not working. Like what is it? Like 2% of actors are working actors and the rest are just like, we're gig workers. Like we just book when we book and you don't know when your next job is going to be, right?
Yeah.
And even the series regulars, sometimes they have a job, consistent job. Then next year
Nothing.
their season doesn't renew.
Yep.
So you're just like everybody else again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I think the transition, I've just accepted, right? I've accepted it. I've never been somebody to be pushing back because I think there's pros and cons to both. Being in person almost gives you that freedom to really just talk to the director and say, hey, like I have questions about this, or the director can give me actually like tangible notes that I can put, that I can put into it, that maybe they know something about the show or they have more details that I don't. And then that would actually benefit me because then I could just like pick up on the notes and then deliver hopefully what with the redirect. But in terms of just like going from that to this, like going from in person to now this self-tape, social media, or not social media, self-tape and all
Which one do you prefer?
digital
Are you
and
more of the going in the actual room, or do you like the self?
I like both. I like both. I think both has their purpose.
Yeah.
And I think what would be nice is if we could still have the in-person callbacks
Yeah.
in person
I still think
versus Zoom.
yeah.
I'm not a huge fan
I
of
still
Zoom
get, like, sometimes
callbacks.
callbacks in person. They don't happen as often, but every once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a
do
while
that.
you get the in-person one. I think I would prefer that because then it's like, oh, if you liked my audition, you liked my art, what I put on tape, and now you want to see me for the callbacks. I think that's cool, bringing us in for in person. But a lot of these casting directors, some of them don't even live in Vancouver, or maybe some of them live, away, or they don't have their offices anymore because a lot of the offices have closed down or not sure what they've done. But I think, having this option is really great for actors because you can work, you can make a living, but you can also do what you love. And you can also submit these auditions and submit these tapes. And so I think, a combination of both would be amazing. But I do like that I could be anywhere in the world and send a self-tape.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
I love it. I mean,
The digital world.
It's just like, I mean, I think
really
this
cool.
is. I tend to gravitate towards self tape a little more. I just feel like it fits my lifestyle better because obviously like I work from home, and I mean the only reason why I came to Vancouver is because I wanted to act, and
Now you can live in Montreal if you wanted to.
yes, and again, like I literally asked myself the same question. It comes back to those like wants and needs that you said, like how badly do I want? I don't want to be here. You know what I mean? So again, I'm not sure. I feel like I like being here. It's fun because it's also different. I've lived in Montreal my whole life, but also being able to just like live anywhere and like just send a self tape. It's just
true.
amazing. Yeah, it's just it's but it's also you don't get that same feeling than when you are in the room where you, as you said, that you get some actual live feedback and you get that redirect.
Hmm.
Also, you get to break the ice when you in person, like
Yeah, and you get to meet the casting directors
yeah,
too.
you get to meet the casting
You
director,
get to build that relationship.
and sometimes
They get to know who you are.
you go in the room and then like maybe they like your energy and then you crack a joke and they laugh and they're like, yep, that's the guy who cracked the joke. Like this tape was not so good, but we'll get him in. You know what I mean? Like it's just, like sometimes like you never know what happened. Like like if you whatever you say might again it could backfire on you. Like
It's like, be careful.
I tend not to like talk too much when I'm in the room. I just go straight into the audition. But again, like it's just goes to show that like there's that human to human sort of interaction that you can actually have with the
Totally.
person that I
And they
play
can get to
sometimes.
know who you are because sometimes from a headshot and
Yeah,
just from your acting on a
yeah,
tape,
it's hard.
it's hard to really see like what kind of roles can you actually play? Like, can you play these other darker types of characters? Can you play this kind of sweeter, friendly best friend? Can you play the funny comedic guy? Like, it's
Yep.
hard to tell sometimes, right? From a tape, what people are
It really is, yeah.
capable of
Especially if they want to like, how do you say that? Like sometimes you audition for something and they want to give you another role,
for something else.
right? But
Yeah.
it's hard for them to see you in another role if
If
they,
they've never actually really communicated with you or
yeah,
built a relationship with you.
yeah,
And I think a lot of the casting directors in town, they've built relationships with actors who have been in the game for 20 years plus.
yep,
So they know, okay, I know this actor's very capable, so I'm going to bring them in because we know what the range is, right? Whereas if you're up and coming and you're just starting off, it's hard to tell, like, what is your range? And
yeah,
the only way is through self tape, but you don't know how many coachings or how much this person's been doing this scene. Have they done it like 50 times? Or are they going to be capable of doing this on set
true,
in like 2 takes?
yep,
Or are you going to be somebody who's going to need the coaching, and then you
yeah,
need to prep,
yeah,
prep, prep? Like
yeah.
it's kind of, it's easy
It's
sometimes to tell
it's
and
a
not
gamble sometimes,
easy.
yeah,
And
because
then it's the
like it's
gamble.
just it's unless you know the person
And
and
unless you
their
know them and you know their work
capabilities,
ethic, yeah, work
yeah,
ethic.
yeah. Sometimes you're like just banking on this, like, oh, I mean, that was a good tape, but are they going to be able to reproduce this on set, or
Yeah,
was that just like a lucky shot? Like, you know what I mean? So,
totally. It's like they
um,
can do it where they are and how
and
comfortable they are.
that's what makes a true like a good actor from a beginner or someone who's just starting out.
Totally.
Sometimes you can send a terrific tape, but maybe it was your day and like you were feeling it and you were in it, and then you were not in your head, and then you go on set, like it's another story sometimes, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think most of the time you can also see maybe from previous self tapes if that casting director has seen the work of that person, if it's
Yeah.
like their first ever audition, they'll
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Versus like their 10th.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this person's submitting consistent work,
Yeah.
right? So then they keep giving you a chance or
Yeah.
giving you opportunity.
Yeah. So I want to go back to rejections a little bit, okay? And then I
Yes.
have one more question. I think we're gonna end there. So obviously, like in this field, you have to embrace rejection because you're gonna be getting a lot
Totally.
of them. It's literally like dating, You've got to get a lot of rejection to actually meet the right person. So how like how much does that affect you in a way that like you get a role, okay, you get a breakdown, you audition for it, you thought that I mean you not you thought, but you did a good job. When you did a good job and you put in the work, you send it in and you're proud of yourself, right? It's just like set it and forget it. And then they get it and you don't get the job. Someone else gets it. Has it ever happened where you would like watch the show and go back on that part that you auditioned for and you see someone else doing it? Someone
Yeah.
else who actually, the one that actually got the job, and now you're looking at this, you're like, man, like
I could have done that.
I got the job. Why did I get cast?
Yeah.
Has this ever happened to you? Or do you not do that? You just like really send it, you don't watch the part of the show that you didn't get. So what do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know some actors they do it. They watch the
I did
show
it
just
once
to
and like
see, just
never
to
again.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to see like,
Yep.
oh, why did they choose that person,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
I've done it before for sure. I've seen like, oh, that actor booked it.
Mm.
And instead of me kind of turning it into a negative thing, I go, oh, I'm curious. Like,
Yeah.
I think once I was just kind of like, yeah, there was a moment where I was like, she was okay, right? Like
Right.
there was a moment where I felt that way. I'm like, I felt like I really gave it, or I felt like I
Yep.
would have been better cast for it. But
Yep.
that's why we're not casting directors. So,
Yeah.
right?
It's not
Because
our
it's
job.
like, it's another job to
Yeah.
figure out like why they chose that person. It could be so many reasons that are like out of our control.
True.
Even if maybe the acting was, in our minds, we feel like, oh, it wasn't as good as what we did, but maybe that's what they needed for that show. They needed that person to just be more subtle or be more this or be this age. I've noticed that for a few roles that I was like, oh, I really wanted to book that. Then I realized, oh, somebody who's in their 50s. And I'm like, I'm not someone in my 50s, so that doesn't match that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, or I'll
So
see
some old lady just booked it.
or I'll see some younger woman and I go, oh, okay, like, okay, yeah, I could see that. And it's just one of those things where I think it's also like the blending of the other castmates and the energy.
Yeah.
And when I know I've been pinned for it and then I see who booked it and I go, oh, okay. And just knowing
see
that
the
like I was
direction.
pinned, like it's knowing that it was still
That's a win.
it was still a win,
Yeah,
right?
it's a win.
And I don't try not to get into the comparison thing because then it doesn't feed my soul in a way that
It
like
doesn't bring any good.
it doesn't help me, right? It's like as long as I know I was up there pinned or if I was,
I guess, like, there could be a reason as to why this could help you. You could look at the performance and like maybe
learn from it. Yeah.
That's,
Like,
that's
oh, I
the
like how
whole
she
point.
played that. Yeah, I could see, oh, say that woman who was the nurse that came in, and
Yeah.
I really like how she played it. Like, she was no makeup, she was like tired, fatigued, and the way that she performed it was just so authentic to her.
Yeah.
And I said, that's something I couldn't do because that's not me.
Yeah.
Right?
Or maybe something you didn't think of.
Yeah.
Something
Or
that,
maybe
like,
I didn't come in with that choice, and she came in with that choice.
Totally, like, 'cause
right?
obviously, like, we all interpret the script
In our own way.
And then when you look at something, it's not necessarily something you couldn't do, but it's something that didn't really
Register.
strike you in the beginning.
Yeah.
Or like you didn't see this character as like this. You thought like because like sometimes we're very like analytical. Like like we look at something and then we are very like our mind goes into this really this one type of character or like this one direction. But obviously, like truth is,
So many ways you could play the
there's different
character.
directions.
Totally.
But again, you'd be like, oh, interesting. I could do that. I didn't know that they wanted this, right? So like,
Right?
yeah. So I guess like that. I think that's probably the only takeaway. I think that would be good for you if you were to do this. But I think I agree with you. Like, it's not something that you want to.
Yeah, you don't want to invest too much time in that because
Yeah.
what it does is it just breeds this kind of competitive negativity
It does.
and it doesn't do anything for us. It's not about the art, right? It's about why am I comparing myself? Why do I think I'm better than this person? It doesn't do us any good. Instead, it's like redirect that energy and just go, hey, I'm just gonna do my thing and put my work into it.
Totally.
If you like it, great. If you don't like it, that's my choice. That's my art. Like Picasso,
Taking a read.
like Rembrandt, like all of the greats that paint, right? There's so many amazing artists, and you just go, oh, this is what they bring to it: the realism, or they bring the abstract qualities, or their strokes are this, in this particular way. And so it's like, who am I as Jess? Who are you as Ali, right? Like figuring out what are your strokes,
Yes.
right? Like what makes you unique.
And I feel like also the reason I would think that someone would actually do this is because we all want to get better. And again, in this field, again, as we mentioned, it does no good for you to just think about why you didn't get the role. It could be your looks, it could be
So many factors.
it could be just like the director having a bad day or
Yeah,
anything, right?
it could be your height. It could be, your ethnicity.
Whatever
it could
is,
be
right? But also like as actors, we do want to get better, and I think something that we wish that execs and directors did is give us feedback
right.
on our takes,
More
on
feedback.
Yes, and I wish this is something that they did, so we just know like was it actually our acting, because that's something that we can control and we can improve on, or was it our look or something out of our control, because that's okay.
Right.
If I didn't get it because of something that is out of my control, then that's not on me, and that's okay. But if I didn't get it because of my acting, it was not good enough, then I want to know this so I can improve on, so I can be a better actor. Right. And I feel like maybe this is why someone would actually do this, is because they want to try to improve and maybe try to look at this at this person's performance and compare it to theirs, so maybe they can draw something from it and take it and grow from it. Right. But yeah, so I think I want to end the podcast with this last question. Is there, again, I know that we can't really talk about this, but is there any projects or things that you're filming right now that you want to maybe share with us?
Oh yeah, plug in.
Plug
You know
in,
how
yeah,
they call it the plugs?
What are you working on right now?
Yeah, so
keep it
watch out for my no.
Watch for Jess.
So There's one that I filmed. It's called The Sugar Plum Christmas, or Sugar Plumped, with Maggie Lawson and Janelle Parrish.
Oh,
And
no, that's General Parrish is the one from Pretty Little Liars.
yes, and so those two are the leads, and I
Nice.
play my name, Jess.
Oh,
And so I'm playing Maggie's assistant.
yeah.
And so that is going to be coming out I think
Amazing.
this Christmas or soon.
Yeah.
I'm going to find out the dates. I'll send them to you.
Please do.
And that will be on Hallmark Channel and it will be
love it,
on
yeah.
the W Network. So that was a
Look at
really,
you.
really fun role. And then another episode, I got on Wild Cards, and that will
I
be
was on that 2 weeks
airing.
ago.
Yeah, and that will
2
be,
weeks ago, yeah.
oh, awesome. Yeah, congrats. And that will be airing, our episode 204 will be airing soon, hopefully. I don't know
Nice, yeah.
exactly when,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
that was a really fun role.
Yeah, they have
And
a quick turnarounds for wild cards, I think.
yeah, and
Which is
so
nice,
it's
yeah.
great. It's local. It's a local show that we'll be filming here, but you'll see that on the CW, right? As you know. And yeah, so Wild Cards, that's the other show that will be airing
Wow, wow.
relatively soon.
We love seeing you book and full actors
Thank
are killing
you.
it
Oh,
out there.
you're so sweet.
The great
Thank you so
Jessica
much.
Garcie, everybody.
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you again so much for tuning in. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.